ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد عباد الله. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for being here inshallah. Today I have brought a very important topic. Wallahi, it's probably one of the most important topics that you could imagine. And that is how to deal with the problems within a household. Because problems exist. We're human beings and none of us think the same. Two brothers do not think the same. And on the way, by the way, even biologically, twins do not think the same. One will end up in one way, in choices, another one will... This is Allah's khalq, nature, the way He created it. That none of the people, or none of the individuals within families, or within societies are exactly photocopies. Therefore, there has to be a sense of disagreement at all times. We all will disagree in many things. In the types of food we eat, in the types of clothing we clothe, in things that our instincts, our taba'i, they differ. Our thoughts differ. So, more importantly, these thoughts and these actions and these things that revolve around the family, you'll find that within the family unit, the husband and wife, they will have a lot of differences. Now, how do we deal with these differences? We need to have a very educated view about how to deal with those problems. And obviously, psychologists, they also talk about these issues. But Islam also deals with these issues in the best way and gives us a very clear-cut direction to follow. Therefore, today, I will be dedicating my time, inshallah, Allah willing, to make us understand how to overcome problems in the house, how to deal with our disagreements in the household between husband and wife, and how can we do that in a way that it does not interfere in the well-being of people around us, like children. And wallahi, the things maybe that you will know today, you will, if you're a parent, if you're a carer, you will realize it and you will say, subhanallah, I wish I had knew these things before. I wish I knew and I would not have made these mistakes. And no doubt, as a Muslim, we're people of sincerity. We follow the right thing and the right course. It doesn't matter from where it comes. It doesn't matter who says it. When somebody advises us, and that advice is a true advice, sincere advice, and they criticize us in a way that is benefiting us, then we as a Muslim, we accept that criticism. And we mold ourselves to adapt to the truth that comes to us. Therefore, ya ibadallah, remember the safety of the family and its standing firm and its peace and its tranquility all lies in the few things that are related to its family unit. That is the father, the mother, and the children, and the family and the relatives. Therefore, to fix this family unit will lead to a greater benefit to the whole society. Therefore, there are many things that will help us to achieve this safety within the family unit and be able to make it flourish, inshallah. And many of the people are unaware of those things, especially the righteous people, the pious people. Many of them are unaware. of those realities or those informations, especially from the parents and the carers. They're unaware of that. Therefore, we need to make sure that we deal with these problems and we cure these problems in the best way as possible. And also, remember, we need to cure these problems in the most sincere way, with the honesty, and not in a way that is just, put forward, but not with real action or real way of dealing with this problem and changing our state and our situation. So it needs to be done in a sincere way, with truthfulness and honesty. One of the things that is very important is that, as I mentioned, that there will be a lot of differences between parents and carers. And also remember, a lot of people, parents assume a lot of things and do things. And they think, and the way they deal with each other within the house, the father and the mother, they deal in a very negative ways. And they don't realize it. They think that the children, that are youngsters, they do not know. They don't understand these things. So they have the children to witness all that bad behavior between the father and the mother. The shouting, the screaming, the vulgarity, the abuse. One or the other, sometimes both, sometimes one or the other. You will find that within the household, you will find many parents are careless about this fact that they have to make the children see all of that cruelty. And think about yourself. What does that leave a child with? What a trauma does it leave a child with? The child will leave scars and traumas that will reside in their heart and in their psychology till they are even grown up. And it will never heal. And it will damage the internal structure and the mind of the child. And that's why a lot of, as I mentioned to you, first point to notice is, don't think the child doesn't understand. A lot of our elders, our youngsters who marry newly, they don't know these things. They think, children are gullible, they don't understand anything. No, they understand everything you're saying and doing. And they're registering your behavior. And they're making note of your statements as well as your emotions and as well as your actions. They're not just sitting there just because they can't speak yet, they can't express themselves. That does not mean that actually they're not registering all these informations. So be very careful how we behave in front of our children in our household, especially the father and the mother. So therefore you need to realize it. Children are social beings. Do you know that they actually start learning from you just after they're born? The day they can actually distinguish a little bit, they open their eyes, guess what they do? You wouldn't know, subhanAllah. They actually look at your face and they mimic your face expressions. Do you know this? Child, just maybe a week or 2 weeks old, is already communicating with you, but you don't know. They're communicating and look at you. And when they move, they look this way. Do you know these are already the fundamentals of them growing up as a social being who will learn how to interact. Human beings are social beings and they need social interactions. So therefore you as a parent, as a father and a mother, are the first door to interactions. How you interact with your child will lay down the foundations of their life till they're even grown-ups. So therefore, O Ibadallah, O Muslim brothers and sisters, O people who are listening, who are intelligent, be very careful how you behave and interact in front of your child, especially when it comes to differences. As we mentioned, they understand. Therefore, you will leave a great, great amount of effect on their inner selves, the way you behave. But remember that marital life has a lot of differences in them. It doesn't matter how successful a marriage is, how blossoming it is. You know, there are some brothers and sisters, they have, mashallah, honeymoon every week. But I tell you something, after every honeymoon, there is going to be a time of darkness. Because this is the nature of man. This is the nature of human being. You will always differ. And sometimes even if you don't want to differ, you will differ. And you will have a form of disagreements within the household. It doesn't matter how successful the marriage is. And it's part of that nature that Allah created man, is to test them. وَلَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً. And indeed we shall test you with good and bad. And Allah also says that He will test you with each other. أَتَصْبِرُونَ. So realizing, first point was that you need to know that children understand everything you do and say. Second point you need to know is that this life is not always a garden of Jannah. There will be times where there's going to be storms. You need to be prepared for them. So this life is a trial and a test. إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ أَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Indeed, your wealth, your children, your family are a trial for you. Recognize this fact that there will be times where you're going to be suffering from hard questions. And there will be times you will have easy questions in your examination papers. So it doesn't matter how successful a marriage is, it will still go through some form of disagreement down the line. Because we say, because our mindsets are not the same. We don't think the same. Wallahi, sometimes you can find the husband thinks one way and the wife thinks completely different way. Husband says one and the wife says another. What do you do now? How do you deal with this? Or deal with the punches? You know? Become emotional, start screaming, shouting. Doesn't matter who is there. You know, a lot of people, they become rage. This is how it is actually. Women tend to take, this is how Allah has made. Men and women also think differently. Men will go straight to rage in a disagreement, in a physical move, most likely. But as a woman, they will go to emotional move. Or they will use their tongue. And by the way, physical and emotional and verbal are both considered abuse. It doesn't mean that a woman is saying things that hurts their husband, that's not an abuse. In today's society, we feel like if a woman can say what she wants, she can abuse her husband, it's not considered abuse, but that's not true. It's still considered abuse. And similarly, if a man is injuring his wife or hurting her physically or emotionally, it's considered abuse in Islam. And it's prohibited. Therefore, there's going to be differences, as I mentioned. But, what do? We need to find a way, the most humane way of dealing with problems as swiftly as possible. We need to have a system in our house which allows us to deal with our problems, marital differences. Why did I come up with this topic? You already probably understand that this society is disintegrating. It's falling apart. Men and women are all going their own ways because they can't tolerate, they have differences. Now, these differences are going to calamities and everybody wants to separate their ways. Children are growing up without fathers or mothers. Many children, because they become in an abusive environment, are taken by the social services and living lives other than with their parents. This is a reality and a fact. Many children are abused by their own parents emotionally, physically, and hurt daily basis. And they're causing them injuries. And many women are suffering because of abuse of their husbands. And many men are suffering because of abuse of their wives. It's not always that way. It's both ways. So therefore, it's necessary to talk about this problem and give a clear-cut, educated solution to this. So what should we do? The first thing you should do is, there has to be some means of speaking with each other. Whenever there is ikhtilaf, you notice suddenly, difference come between you and your wife, you need to say, you know what? We need to move to somewhere quiet. Let the children be somewhere far away from you. Far away, they cannot even hear a whisper. And make them not even feel you're going to argue. You need to close the doors so tightly that they cannot even hear one thing that you say or you utter to each other. You're not allowed to argue in front of your children. And if you notice that one parent is aggressive and you have the mind to control the situation, then you need to calm down and not argue back. Prophet Muhammad said that I promise a house in Jannah for the one who gives up argument even though he is upon haqq. Islam came to remove any form of discord. But even sometimes you're on the truth, but you're laying down for the greater benefit. And the intelligent is the one who stops the argument before it becomes big. But even if the argument takes place, it should be taking place in the privacy, far away. Go somewhere where the children cannot hear you and they cannot know if you two have even a disagreement. So therefore, as long as they're able to do so, and they need to stop arguing in front of the children. Remember this, the fourth point I'm giving you today, brothers. Please do not argue in front of your children. Those who are not married, you're lucky. You will have now the information. When you're married, inshallah, don't argue in front of the children. Simple. Register that. Doesn't matter how much you are now right. Shaitan will come and pull you. You're right. You need to say now. Say something back. Come on, she said something back. You need to say something back. Or he said something back. You need to say something back as well. Repay him. He's not your boss. Shaitan will keep, motivating you and whispering to you, playing with your emotions. Do you know Shaitan can use your spouse against you and you against your spouse? Because this is what he does the best. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that Shaitan has different rankings. The devil, Iblis, he is the father of all the devils. And he has his army and people working for him. Jinns from shayateen working for him. And they have different rankings. And the Prophet ﷺ said, so he will call his jinns, shayateen, and talk to them. What have you done today? What fasad have you done? One of them will say, I stopped a child going to the madrasa, to the masjid. He said, well done. You're very high rank. Well done because you destroyed his aql, you destroyed his mind and guidance. And the other one will say, I've done something better. What is that? He says, I have actually made two husband and wife fight with each other and divorce. And he says, Ni'mah, you are the best one. Come sit here. Because you have achieved what none of those can achieve. Because when you destroyed the husband and wife, you separated them, you destroyed the children that are going to be coming. Because now you either made them a lone parent or you made them parentless. And they are already, because of the divorce, they're already suffering from trauma, so they're already damaged mentally. So they are, in other words, easy target for the shaitan to control later on. Traumas destroy human beings. Traumas destroy generations. Traumas eradicate the self-esteem of goodness in a society. Traumas lead to destruction of the mind and the social structure and is the keystone to crime. And you find shaitan will manipulate the parents against each other and make them argue non-stop for hours sometimes. So therefore, ya ibadallah, what should we do to overcome this? Number one, if you stop arguing in front of children, what do you achieve? If you stop arguing in front of children, what do you achieve? Number one, you save your children and you save their souls from tarnishing and damaging. That's very important. You stop them from traumas, as I mentioned. Do you know, trauma is a sense of feeling, you feel loss, you feel worried, you feel anxiety, you feel unsafe. A child should never feel this. A young child should never have the feeling of being unsafe with their parents, with their father and mother. They should never feel like in a state of worry and anxiety all the time. Consistent anxiety, consistent worry, consistent overthinking about the situation between their parents. It leads to the destruction of the soul of the child. So therefore we need to keep that in mind. Secondly, if you don't argue in front of your children, what does that do? It keeps the children from having a good perception of their parents. If you are always arguing and bickering like children, screaming, shouting, swearing, what do you think the child is going to look at you as? Huh? He's going to look at you, my father, I love you. My mother, you're such a grand. You have removed the ihtiram in their eyes. Ihtiram is the respect. You lose respect to your children. They do not see you anymore as valuable individuals. You degraded yourself when you were arguing in front of them. And you belittled your own self in front of your children. So that's why you will find many children don't respect their parents. It's not because you always hear, oh, my child doesn't respect me. You know why he doesn't respect you? Because down the line, you misbehaved in front of them. And they realized that your value wasn't there. And children are very easy to notice these things. They will wait for one opportunity to belittle you because they don't know yet. They don't have the knowledge yet. But they follow instincts. So if you want to keep your good image in front of your children, then brothers, don't argue in front of your children. Don't argue in front of your children. Again, I'm telling you this, please keep a note of this. Don't argue in front of your children. Simple message. And also, when you don't argue in front of your children and you hide it, what is the result of that? The result of that is that you will make sure that you solve the problem quickly. Because now you're hiding your problem. You don't want people to know. So you go to the room, 10 minutes and it's over. Alhamdulillah. We talked about it. Let's come to conclusion now. Quickly, come on. Let's put something down. Lay down. What do we do? How do we change? What do we need? Let me listen to your view. Empathize. You know, empathy is a key function in communication. You know this, brothers. You know what empathy is? Many of us do not know what empathy is. You know why? Forgive me, brothers, but many of us never actually learned empathy from our parents. We were grown up in a state where our parents only knew themselves. Each one of them was busy with their own view of life and own view of reality and history. It was all about them as individuals. It was never about the other. Empathy is when you feel the pain of another man or another person. When you come home tired and you've done a lot of work and you're emotional and your wife notices it, says, SubhanAllah, my husband is tired. Let me do something for him. This is called empathy. When you come home and you see your wife is sick, you don't say to her like, oh, she's faking it again. You go to her and say, you okay? Please rest. This is called empathy. And we lack this in the world today. No one wants to feel the pain of another man today. Everybody is about the pain of his own self. He's worried about his own pain. But do you know why he feels this way? Because he never learned to empathize. And he never actually mirrored was mirrored empathy from his parents. So the life of generation after generation of children growing up without having the emotions to recognize the pain of another individual. And this is the state of the ummah and also widely the world today. So therefore, ya ibadallah, dealing with the problems in this way, quickly, and coming to conclusion is required from us in Islam to be able to actually overcome the great problems. Therefore, many people didn't know this information. Like us, we already have children, they're grown up. We went through a lot of ups and downs in life and not knowing how to deal with it. But today, if you know the information and you learn today, it's time for you to make up now. You still have chance. It's not like it's over. My children are grown up. Start now, even if they're adults now. Maybe this is the time to mend with your children. Go to them and give them a hug and squeeze them and say, my son, forgive me if I was down the line, hurt you, injured you by my statements, by my actions. This is not degrading. This is not devaluing you. This is actually honoring you. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever lowers himself, Allah will raise him. Go to your spouse in the house without mukabara, without thinking you are great, humbly asking your children and your wife and saying to them, wherever I went wrong, please forgive me. And that applies to the spouse, the women as well. Therefore, ya ibadallah, there's always room to make up. As I mentioned to you, we're hurting ourselves. We're hurting our own self. We're burning ourselves. And we're destroying our children. And we're putting a lot of difficulties upon ourselves when we go against the realities. And therefore you find the wife commits a mistake, a big mistake. But it's not from a good behavior of the husband to go at her in front of the children, abusing her, putting her down, making her feel useless, making her feel not valued. It's not okay to do that. You don't have the right to go in front of the children and use bad language with your spouse, putting her down in front of the children. That should be the same for the husband and the wife. That's the way Allah has taught us. Remember. And therefore you find children are very emotional. When they see whoever is the aggressive in the house, and the one who is more quieter, they will stand with the person who is the quiet one. If the father is the aggressive one and shouting and screaming, and the mother is the quiet, the children will go towards the mother. Take the side of the mother. And a lot of fathers, they become even more aggressive when they hear suddenly the children taking the side. Guess what they start saying? Now you have even taken the children away from me. You're making them go against me. No, that's not the reason. Because of your reaction, the children are reacting. They're taking the opposite because